Hi, this video is going to be about French names. Now, as I've said in previous videos, I absolutely adore French names. I just think they're so classy and just they always sound so cool. I mean, I'm sure this is a bit of a generalisation, but for the girls they're always so sophisticated and feminine, but then for the boys they're so strong and quirky and cool. I just think they're such a lovely theme and they always sound really nice. So for that reason, I haven't got the usual 10-10, 10 for girls, 10 for boys. I've got like 20 for girls and 10 for boys. I'm not going to have the little pieces of paper as I sometimes have, just because there's so many. And I'm only going to do little pieces of information for each one, just because you won't be sitting there bored then. And then I'll go back in to go over some of the more interesting ones that I really want to pick up on. Just a piece of information that I came across when I was, researching the names, it's that hyphenated names are really common in France. I mean, you do hear of hyphenated names, but especially not in my area, I don't really come across them too often. I mean, there's Sophie Jane, Lisa May and Naomi Hope that I know, and like out of all the names that I take in, out of all the people that I come across, I've only ever come across like those 3 hyphenated names, which must say something about how unusual it is in my, I don't know whether it's my area or my culture or whatever to have hyphenated names, but they are really common in France. And they're usually composed of 2 names of the same gender, like I would find in my culture. So for a boy, Jean-Pierre, Paul-Henri, that kind of thing, and then for the girls, Marie-Elise, something like that. But then what I found was really interesting was that sometimes they have 2 names in that are of both genders, with the correct gender name first. So, for example, for a boy, you might have Jean-Marie, and then for a girl, you might have Marie-Jacques, which I think is so cool and quirky. It's like me saying my name is Jess Bryan. I mean, I just think it's so unusual and something that I would never come across in my culture, and I thought it was just a piece of information to throw out there. So yeah, I'll get on with the names. First up, I've been going in order of preference, by the way, so favourite name first, working my way down. First up is Geneviève, and I've mentioned it before, I just think it's gorgeous. Mirabelle is next, Lisette, and Aurélie. They're my first 4. I'm not really going to cover them too much because I'm coming back to them later. Then Elodie, which is really girly, Félicien, Margot, Viviane, which I've talked about, Noémie, which I like names beginning with N at the moment. I'm into like Naomi and Natalie, Natasha and Noémie and Noelani, and I just really like names beginning with N, and Noémie. It's cool, and I like the accent in there. I mean, there's a lot of these names have accents in, which I think is cool. Evangeline, I've talked about, it's lovely. Sylvie, Arabelle, which I know quite a lot of Annabelles and Arabellas, but not many Arabelles, which I think is a cool twist. Benjamin Félicie, which is, Felicia or Felicity you get, is a cool French version of Felicity. Aravel, Hélène, which is a cool twist on Helen. Hélène sounds, I don't know, I think it sounds a lot more sophisticated, and I can't really imagine a baby Helen, but I can imagine a baby Hélène. Just the accent, I think 2 accents on both of the E's, just, I think it just makes it sound a lot more accessible to me, because it makes it sound so much more unusual. Then Jolie, which means pretty in French, see? Bilingual. I'm taking GCSE French at the moment, and I've actually got a writing exam on Thursday, so wish me luck. Not going too well at the moment, the whole revision thing, but I'm sure I'll be able to improvise it. I'll just use Jolie. I'll just write a list of French names. Oh, that's my plan. I'll just be like, j'aime les noms Geneviève, Mirabelle, Lisette, already. I'll just list them all. That'll be great. That'll get me an A star, I'm sure. Anyway, so Jolie is quite cool to have the translation of pretty, which makes it a very nice name. Then Celeste, Corinne, which I think Corinne sounds, I don't know whether it's Corinne or something in French, but I think Corinne doesn't really sound very French. The spelling looks French, but how I would say it is how my friend says it, who's called Corinne. She says Corinne, and I don't think it sounds very French, but it still looks really feminine. Mathilde, obviously Matilda. I'm not sure how I like it with the H in. I think I do like it just with the without the H and just the T. I think it makes it look a little bit less like Hilda, which is quite, you know, an old-fashioned name. Cécile, Oceane and Marjolaine. So they're the girls. I'm going to go back on some of them that I think we should have a bit more talking about. Geneviève and Mirabelle are my first two. I've already talked about those loads, and I'm sure they'll come up because they are some of my two favourite all-time girls' names. I think Geneviève and Genevieve is just so pretty. Whenever I see it in a magazine, I'm like, that's my name, don't steal that name, okay? Next up is Lisette, and I'm obsessed with this name at the moment. It's probably my second favourite name, girl's name. I love Lisette, it just sounds so cool. It's you could have Liz or Lizzie as a nickname, or my favourite would be Lissy, which I just love that nickname, it's so cool. Then Aurélie is a lovely name. I think it's so sweet and feminine, and you can imagine it on any age. I like the spelling of it, it makes it look cute and girly. I'm not sure how quite a tomboy, rough and tumble kind of girl would like to have the name Aurélie, because it is so girly, but you'd have to take that into account, but altogether I think it's lovely. Félicien is probably quite a hard one for like a 4-year-old to learn how to spell, because it has got so many letters in, but I think it's quite an easy one to, although it sounds unusual, it's quite easy when you see the name to know how to pronounce it. It looks like you would say Félicien, which is cool. And then Margot, it might sometimes have Margot thrown in, you might have that pronunciation sometimes, but I like Margot. Sylvie is the next one. I think it might sound a little bit too much like Silver, which is obviously maybe it was a bit too out there for me to have someone called Silver, but I like Sylvie. It sounds really cute, girly and sophisticated. Benjamin, it's probably not the nicest sounding name in the world, but I thought it was quite quirky because it's so out there for me personally to have a girl's name, and apparently there is a lot of, in France you do have a lot of male names being turned into girl names just by adding on an E, and they do either pronounce the same way and everything. So Benjamin or Benjamin, I don't really know how you pronounce it in French. I think because it is just such a boy's name for me, it was quite unusual to see it on a girl's list, so that's why I put it in. Then Aravel, I think that is stunning. I think that is Aravel, that's so cool. Oh. And then Marjolaine was at the bottom of my list. I think it's sophisticated, probably just a bit too close to Marjorie or, you know, Marge or something like that for me to be higher up on my list, but I think it was worth a mention. On to the boys. I have Xavier, what was I saying? Xavier, Xavier, you could pronounce it so many different ways. I like Xavier best, but that's definitely top. I really like it at the moment. I think it's really cool. I'm into that kind of name at the moment. Edouard is the French version of Edward. I do like Edward better than Edouard, but it's worth being high up on the list. I don't know whether it's Charlot or Charlo or something like that, but it's the French version of Charles, and I think it looks really cool. It sounds really quite good for a boy, but it might be a little bit too close to Charlotte for some people. Etienne does sound quite feminine actually, when I say it now really. I should probably be a bit lower down on my list just because it's E-double-N-E, it looks quite feminine as well, but maybe if it was A-N, like E-T-E-A-N, might take away some of the Frenchness and some of the like, it does have a really lovely spelling, but I think that to make it sound more masculine you would have to put A-N at the end. Emile is, I know it from the Disney Pixar thing, the Ratatouille one with the rat called Emile, so that's, I think it's cool, and it looks nice and it sounds nice and it would suit a little boy. Zachary is such a popular name everywhere really. I don't know anyone that doesn't like the name Zachary, but I think the IE spelling does make it stand out. Françoise is probably one of the more common French names that I know of. It's like Jean, Jacques, Pierre and Françoise. I mean, in the French exams you always get, François thinks this, tell me your opinion and what's he actually saying, that kind of thing. So I come across Françoise quite a lot when you're talking about the French culture. Camille, I've heard it used for a girl and a boy, but I think Camille sounds good for a boy. Andre, it's the French version of Andrew, and I do actually hear it quite a lot. It's probably a bit common for me to use just because I do know quite a lot of Andres of all different ages, but that does show that it's not dated and it can suit any age. And Amy, I'm not quite sure how you say this. Is it Amy, I don't know. Amy is probably how I would say it, just looking at it, and that does sound, obviously it is the girl's name, Amy, but I think it sounds actually really cool for a boy's name. I've never come across it before for being a boy's name, and that's why it's on the list, but I think it sounds really cool, like Amy. Yeah, I think especially with that spelling, it does look like a boy's name, but it's probably better useful just because it is so much like the girl's name. And also, when I was reading out the girls' names, I remembered a French name that I love and just isn't on the list. I just completely forgotten about it, and I think it's worth mentioning now, and that's Giovanni. And that's my best friend for ages was called Giovanni, and she gets Giv for short. And I think that's the coolest name ever. I think it's so cool, but I would never use it just because it is so, I connected so much with that person. I mean, she's lovely, and that's not a bad connection, but you know what I mean? Every time I said a person's name, I would think of Jiv, my friend. But she got it after the Garden of Giverny. And it is a French word. I don't think it means anything. I think it's just a French place, but it's definitely a French name, and I thought it was just worth a mention at the end. So thank you very much. I know I've rambled as usual. I ramble every single time, but yes, hope you enjoyed it. Tell me your comments. Do you have any French names that I haven't mentioned that you like? Which one were your favourite? Which one of your favourites? I did mention so many girls' names, so I'm sure there's a lot to pick out of. So thank you very much, and bye.